you. All right, here we are in Brevard, North Carolina. Um, it is July
10th.
10th, July 10th. And Andrea has told me that you told her the story of your mom, Marcella, many times before about her coming over to the United States.
All
And
right.
she asked if you could tell the story once more on video.
All right. I'm glad you remembered, Andrea. Well, your grandma, my mother, her first name was Marcella, which to me sound it's a French word, a French name more than a Polish name, but that's the name they gave her, and I think it's a very pretty name. Um, Grandma was born in 1897, and the reason I remember is because she said when the century changed, she was 3 years old. So that's how I remember her birthday. Um, she lived in a small community, uh, very, very tiny. She had zero education because at that time, that part of the country was taken away from Poland and it became Austria Hungary. And so they had no privileges. It was almost a crime to get it to, for the peasants to have an education. My mother said that a man in the village would have to sneak boys into his house every now and then to teach them how to write. Now,
And that was just the boys,
that was
not the
just the
girls.
boys. The girls, they couldn't take the chance on that. So when Grandma came to this country, she was 16 years old. That was March 25th, month of the um, March 25th, 1914. It was uh, and her sister. She came to live with her oldest sister, whose name was Frances, and at that time she already had 2 or 3 boys, and that's who we used to call Chacha. But when she came here, she had a job um, working as most of the girls did as housemaids for other people. And when she left her village, she left everything. Her parents, at the age of 16, never to see them again. Of course, they didn't realize it at the time, and she went to the boatyard by horse and wagon. Of course, that was the only transportation that they had. But at least she had family here. She had her married sister Frances. Um,
And that's who you were named after?
I assume so. What do I know? Uh, the Somewhere along the line, she met Grandpa, and she did not know Grandpa in the old country. She met him here. I know it has something to do with ice cream. He invited her out to go for ice cream. Like I said in the last interview, Grandpa did not want to marry this lady in Chicago, and how he got back to New Jersey, who knows? And Mama always said she didn't marry for love, she married for security. Ha ha ha. But anyway, that's the way it was. I guess they threatened her that if she didn't marry, that they were going to send her back to Poland. So, a lot of stories. Who knows which is true? And that's how Grandma Marcella came to this country. Oh, all she was able to do was make a letter X. She could not write. But over the years, she learned to read English without any government help. She learned mostly from looking at cartoons in the newspaper and would learn the words. Evidently, someone told her. And many years later, well, she did learn to write her name. And during the outbreak of the Second World War, they asked people to get jobs in the factory. And by that time, um, she was able to write her name. She got a job working for Westinghouse in the city of Bloomfield, and she worked a night shift. She would travel by bus and come home after midnight, and Grandpa would walk to the bus stop to escort her home. When she worked there, she started out cleaning bathrooms. Um, that's what she was able to do, and from there they saw that she was an intelligent person, and they gave her a job on the assembly line making light bulbs, and she did that for 19 years. And she kind of enjoyed going to work. It was something different for her, and she was very proud. Um, I remember one time when they moved to Wildwood Crest, New Jersey, after Grandpa and Grandma retired. Grandpa used to bring home, your grandpa, your mom's dad, would bring home a paper that children would practice writing on, that had the lines, and we caught her writing, and she was watching TV, the education stations where they would teach children how to write, and I would see her practicing, and she learned on her own, all without any government help. There was nothing there.
So that was like 1959 by then, right? That they
Yeah.
moved to Wildwood Crest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
there was people did not have everything handed to them the way people who come to this country expect it now. No one changed the signs for them. You either learned English or it was just too bad. And the people who came here from Europe were very proud. All the people that I knew, uh, my aunts and uncles and friends that my parents had, they were very proud to be an American. They had no desire and had no thoughts of going back to the old country, and they said, why go back there where we starved? So they were proud to be here, and they were proud to be Americans. They went for the senior citizenship papers. They had to learn certain things.
Citizenship. Right. Citizenship.
Yeah, didn't I say
You
that?
said senior citizens.
Oh, senior
To be citizens of the United
citizens
States.
of, and well, what else?
And
is
both
there?
Marcella and Anthony became
Oh
citizens?
yes, oh yes, and they were proud voters. And
Do you know what year they got their citizenship?
you know what? That's something that we never found. We never found the papers. I thought Chacha Jenny had them, and we have some documents, but we don't have everything. I have some papers upstairs, and those are the ones that we wanted. What was very funny, I remember as a kid living on 48 Kazoo Street in Newark, New Jersey, there was a night that Grandpa was going to write a letter to family back in Europe. And it was like, tonight Papa's writing a letter. And if I was clever, and if I could write a play, that would be a hilarious skit to be played on a TV show at night. It had to wash the table in the kitchen, the big round table, which Uncle Johnny has, and or I hope he still has, and Grandpa got out the bottle of ink and the pen that he had, a little black pen, and he would have to make motions with his hands. It was like, everybody quiet, Papa's writing a letter to Poland. And it was a big production. And if you saw the handwriting that the people, see, Grandpa had a little education in Poland because he came from a family with the little means. But Grandma, no. And all their letters were like almost like calligraphy. They were so fancy. And it took a good part of that evening just to write this letter to Poland. And
You
I always
took
thought,
out the ink. What type of pen was it? Was it Did he fill up a fountain pen?
Yeah,
Or did
he had
actually,
one that you could had a little thing and you would suck the ink in.
so you'd have to dip it into the ink?
Yeah, well, you put it in the ink. Didn't you ever see pens like
Like
that?
a calligraphy pen.
Well, you had it. Well, that's just in and out. This one had um, a little
Stylus?
thing, and you open it up and it would siphon the ink in, and it was like a little rubber.
And then every once in a while you would have to refill
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And that was Grandpa writing. But it was very funny, and that sticks in my head how he would motion the table, and it was so dramatic and was so serious.
So how old were you, do you figure, that
I
you
have no
remember
idea,
that?
but I do remember that. And
So,
Christmas was very big for Grandpa. He was great. He loved decorating for Christmas. Um, Christmas trees used to be 50 cents. Of course, they weren't these big elaborate trees that you could get now. And
but it
one,
also took a while to make 50 cents too.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean the trees were not. They were more like Charlie Brown trees. And one year, Grandpa went out and wanted to buy a tree, and it went up to 75 cents, and he refused to buy it. And that was the one year in our life that we did not have a Christmas tree because the price was 75 cents.
So he worked for Westinghouse as well?
No, he
Yeah.
worked for public service. Public service, big company, energy company in New Jersey. That was electricity. They ran the buses, but he didn't do that type of work. He was classified as a laborer, but actually, he he operated a what is it called, Don? Uh, it's a I used to remember. You know, it's a machinery and it has a thing, and you would take something from. He used to take scrap metal from a boat, and with this
Melt it down?
like a rig, and dump it into a truck.
Like a crane or something?
Crane. He operated a crane, but that was on the Pacific, on the Passaic River in New Jersey, and one of the ships that he helped to dismantle was the Normandy, which was sabotaged. I believe it was sabotaged in the New York Harbor, and we do have some pieces from that ship, all stainless steel. They're in the house somewhere. I don't know.
You mean sabotage like during the war?
During the war, yeah. It was
World War
the
II.
World War II.
And your father's name was Anthony,
Yeah. Anthony.
but that was not his given name. Was his
Oh, that was his
That was his
baptized.
given name?
He was
He was
baptized,
baptized
Anthony.
Anthony?
Yeah, and Grandma was baptized Marcella.
that wasn't Americanized? Anthony was not Americanized?
No, they called him Tony, but Anthony was Polish. Antonio. During the Second War, we had food rations, and if you would save the grease, like if you were fortunate to have bacon or something, if you would save that grease or any grease from a piece of meat, and you would save that in a jar or some type of a container, you take it to the butcher, and you get extra coupons for that. But food was rationed. My sisters.
What did the butcher do with grease?
Well, I think wasn't grease used for ammunition and stuff? I don't know. What do you think, Don? During the war, they used to accumulate grease and give it to the butcher, and then you would get extra coupons for food. Was grease used for ammunition? Or what did they use it for?
I always thought you just used it for cooking, but I didn't know that you used it.
No,
the butcher would use it for something, or
Well,
he just a
you would
collection
turn it. You would
station.
turn it into them, and
Well,
they would
something
give
we
it to
can
you.
research then.
I don't know.
Well, this is what I remember. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
As time goes by, I remember less. And I remember waiting in line for hours and hours on corner of Broad and Market Street, where this store would get nylons that the ladies would wear, and I would wait in line for my sisters because I was a a young teenager at that time, and get them nylon so they could have it. Um,
Does Grandma Marcella remember anything of her that she's told you stories of growing up in Poland?
she did not talk about Poland. She just she said her father was very intelligent. That he would invent things that people would come to him and ask him about a certain job they were doing. They needed the tool, and Grandpa would figure it out and make the tool for them. And her mother was on the sickly side, but I have little suspicions. I get mixed up whose mother it was. I think it was Grandma Marcella's mother. They used to have poppy fields, and when she'd come back from the poppy fields, I don't know whether. And I really don't know. They said almost nothing. Of course, the poppy seed, as you know, is very, very.
Like poppy seed bread.
As we make the stolons that we make, especially at Christmas time,
And that's what they did with these poppies, is they harvested the
Yeah.
seeds for the breads.
and if
Nothing else.
yeah, but who knows? You know, from ignorance, you don't know what they went through. But she said her mother was always very sick. She never saw her youngest brother was 2 years old when she left, and we went to Poland. What year did we go to Poland? I think in 74. 74. And about a year or two later, he came and visited Grandma. But she said he looked just like her father. He was tall, and he was very good looking. But and he during the time of communism, when he was working, he had a lot of people belonged to the party if they wanted a decent job, and he was an ambulance driver. And
Then
But-
she never, Grandma Marcella never saw her parents when she left.
no,
home.
when we went back to Poland in '74, her sister was living in an entirely different town, a different house, because during the war, the home that Grandma lived in, I think the town was called Tatanoko. They came, I don't know whether it was the Germans or the Nazis, and they came and they had 1 hour to get their belongings and get on the truck, and they were placed in like camps, and eventually they got a home. But this is where they were placed, and that's where they had to live. And there was trouble because after the war, the land that they lived on, it used to be Polish land, but then the first war, it was taken away and given to the Germans. After the second war, it was taken away from the Germans and given back to the Polish country. So there's always that strife there. So there's, and to my knowledge, that's where they lived and died, and that's the best.
And does Grandpa Nizborski, he never talked about Poland?
Nah, they never. They were proud to be Americans. Whether they spoke to their friends when they got together, I don't know. I remember we always had, in the summertime, we had people come to our house all the time, people from Buffalo and from Pennsylvania, and it was always a good time and plenty of beer flowing. And I remember one year, It's very clear in my mind. Um, they had a big cabbage slicer. You could probably see them in museums. They're about this long and about that wide, and they had a blade, and they would just get heads of cabbage and slice them, and they would make sauerkraut. And they did that in our basement on 48 Kazoo Street, and that was, I remember, because the smell and the laughter and the booze and everything. they always managed to have a good time. And Grandpa Nisborski loved to dance. Whenever there was a wedding, he was always on the dance floor. And to this day, it's a shame that in his old age he had to have one leg amputated. It was gangrene.
Yeah, he was already in
Yeah,
his
he
80s.
he was late 70s.
Late 70s,
Of course, he was 82 when he died.
80s. Now, did you talked about making sauerkraut? Did Grandpa make? Was it Grandpa Krysiak or Grandpa Nisborski that made
The kielbasa. No, that was Grandpa Krysiak. He made fresh kielbasa. Boy, that was good. You would
Remember
get the
grinding
yeah,
up
yeah, the pork and everything. Getting the casings from the butcher and what have you.
Grandma Marcella was a good cook.
She was excellent. She was a fantastic baker. Well, and she just did it. I said, how much you put in? She said, well, you have to feel it. You feel it. You have to taste it. You have to feel it. It's very hard getting a recipe from her.
Yes, I remember one summer, because I spent many summers with her when I was a teenager, watching her make the pierogi dough, and I had her stop so I can look and see how much it was and try to figure out what the measurements were, because she didn't use measurements. She just, like she said, she did it by look, by feel, and she's made them all her life too. So
Just simple, everyday people. That's all. That's all we were. But those are the people that made the country great. They raised their children. Nobody went to jail. No one went on charity. There was no, as a matter of fact, that was frowned on. Taking charity was frowned on. Nobody, you paid your way, you did the right thing, and there were no handouts, and people were proud to say that they didn't have to take charity. And they did without. They did without. But this is what the country was made of, people like that.
okay, well, good job.
Any other questions?
I can't think of anything, but if Andrea or Mark thinks of something, we'll next time we visit, we'll have to.
Grandma loved the ocean. Oh, that's why they got
Is
the
that
house.
why they ended up there?
Oh, she loved it. She loved the water more than anything.
Well, that's funny because I don't ever recall her being in
Oh, she used to.
the water.
Yeah.
I remember her maybe when we were younger going down and looking at the water.
That was Grandma Krysiak. She never went. She never went in.
No,
When we
but I
went-
still
when we
don't
went to,
remember Grandma Nisborski going
Belmar.
in the water.
Oh, she loved it. We had pictures of her in the water. She loved the waves and everything.
It's the one picture of Grandpa Nisborski in the water with that funny bathing suit.
Oh, well, yeah, that was an old-fashioned
Right.
woolen bathing suit. Yeah. But,
Was that taken in?
No, that was done in. It wasn't even the ocean. It was a bay, Union Beach, New Jersey. It's really north. It wasn't even the ocean. I didn't see the real ocean. I saw water, but not the real ocean until I was about 18, 19 years old.
And you only lived
I
a few
know,
miles from it.
but my father didn't have a car.
Right.
He didn't need a car because he had a free pass to go on any public service bus. And of course, we had to pay a nickel to go uptown to go shopping to where all the department stores were. And, everywhere else we went to school, we walked I'm always curious, how far did I have to walk from 48 Kazoo Street to St. Casimir's School? I
Add
wonder,
an address, you can figure that out.
you could, I mean, walking, not the way the bird flies.
Right.
They could tell you how to get there by car.
I'm sure the streets are still there. Right? The streets
Yeah,
aren't going to
yeah.
change.
I guess if you go to that MapQuest or something, they would tell you how to get there.
Well, I know Grandma and lived in very exciting times because there was a lot of new inventions. I mean,
Yes.
she grew up in the time when the telephone was invented and airplanes. And, she
Also,
lived to see men on the moon.
that's right.
And the beginning of computers being used in households. In the very beginning of that.
And television.
And television. Did you have a TV
Yeah, we had TV.
growing up?
Yeah. We weren't the first ones to have it, but we did have a TV.
And before that you had a radio?
Oh, yeah. My brother Carl died when he was 16. I was only 5 years old at the time. And he died of ruptured appendicitis, and that was before penicillin was invented, so therefore there was no way to help him. And I remember my father taking the radio and the Victrola out and put it in the front hall, and for a whole year there was no radio or Victrola or anything in the house for a year.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have, including Carl?
Well, Carl was the oldest and the first child and the boy, and then there was my sister Anna, who has since died in 1980. And then there's Chacha Jenny, who was 85 years old. And then there's a space of 8 years between Jenny and I. Then came Jenny, and then Chacha Caroline, and then Uncle Peter. And Uncle Peter next year will be 70. He was born in 29. So there was a boy at the beginning and a boy at the end. 4 girls in between. It's altogether 6.
Uncle Peter was born in 29?
Yeah.
And how many years older were you than him?
Well, if I'm,
Yeah.
I think it's 9 years, because we're both in January. So next January I'll be 78, God willing, and he'll be 70. So there's an 8-year difference. And then there's an 8-year difference between Jenny and I. And Caroline and I, there's 5 years. Everything else is pretty much. I remember when we moved to Fort Myers, and we'd take you, Andrea, on the beach, and those little flip-flops came out. They were called jellies.
Jellies, yeah.
And you went in the water, and one jelly fell off your foot, and there's Grandpa looking all over for it, and he found it, and you said, "My hero." He found your jelly. And then one time there was a lot of seaweeds, and I said, you didn't know what it was, and I said, "Oh, the mermaid's got a haircut." So later on, the lady came on the beach in the water. She said, "Oh, too many seaweed." She says, "Oh, the mermaids got their hair cut." And this lady said, "Oh, did you hear what that little girl said? She's so cute." The mermaids got a haircut. But of course, when we walked you in the stroller along the beach, everybody was all retired senior citizens, and they just went, "Oh, especially with all the curls you used to have in your hair." Oh, those were good days.
Well, these are good days too.
Yeah, these are, you remember these things. But God knows what you look like now. How do I know? I haven't seen you in years. If you were to walk down the street, would I know who you are? I don't know. You
That was
better
a
come.
hint.
Well, I'm still senile. I don't get sick before I get senile.
Well,
So,
hopefully, by this time next year, she'll be done with school.
yeah, that's what I wrote. And, you have to do what you have to do. That's all. And maybe if Mom moves up here closer, it'll be easier. We'll have a reason to come up.
I don't wait for that.
Well, whatever's going to be, it's going to be.
All right. Well, that's it
Yeah.
for now. I'm signing off.
My voice got a little raspy here. I don't know what it is.
No, well, she'll have to analyze that.
Well,